All right, so as promised, goal check-in reflection time. It took me a while because, I do the end of the year things. You make a lot of lists, you make a lot of intentions, and so like going around and figuring out which intentions still work for me, which lists I still want to pull things from, how rigid I want things to be, how I want to measure goals, etc. It's wishy-washy. I think we're going to kind of go through where I am on some goals, what goals I'm maybe keeping, what I might be adding on, what I may be pivoting from, and it might be a structured video, it might not be. I have notes. But since I did collect stuff from all over the place, I don't know how good of a flow there's going to be. But starting off with just kind of the basics, I wanted to read less than I did last year. Last year I read a lot, and I don't think that was to my benefit. I don't think it was like I was reading a higher number of quality books. I was just reading more, and I wasn't personally gaining a lot of the things I want from reading with them, which is kind of a thing that I thought about a lot when I was looking at this, is like, why do I read? What should I be trying to make sure I'm still doing when I'm picking things up to read? And we'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about what I'm going to try and do for one of these goals, but that was like a thing I was thinking about in addition to looking through the projects and the lists and my last goals video. And so the first thing I said was 120 books. That feels like a good sweet spot for me. It's about 10 books a month, which I feel like is right before I'm reading too much. It wasn't really a page count goal. That doesn't really bother me enough. Like, when I do read a lot of short books or a lot of long books, it tends to balance out and equal the average book length for a fantasy book of like 350 to 400, right? And so I'm not really worried about page count. I'm more just like 120. Try not to be at like 160 again, because I think that's what it was last year. It was an absurd number for me and my reading speed, because my reading speed's pretty average, I think, or maybe on the slower half. I don't really know. I can read about 50 pages an hour-ish. It depends. Sometimes a little faster if I have the audiobook, sometimes a little faster depending on how the author writes sentences, but my focus is also bad. So like that 50 pages an hour doesn't include the time I'm spending on my phone or talking to Ryan or petting the cat or just not being completely in. That's just how my brain is. So in reality, if I set aside 2 hours for reading, I'm not reading 100 pages. I may be reading 70 because of how that works. So when I do read a lot, that means I've just set aside a bunch of time for reading, which is great, but I'm not setting a lot of time aside for other things. So if I'm not reading things that make me super excited about reading, I get really sad because my free time is not being used in a way that makes me happy, and it's not like I'm getting a lot of happiness from like my work life and stresses of finding a job. So that's kind of why I'm trying to make sure I'm still reading what I want to be reading. I love reading, but then I'm leaving room for movies, TV shows, video games, hanging out with friends, things like that. So we're doing great though. I'm basically behind that reading goal by like 3 or 4 books, but July's turning out to be a really strong reading month, so I'm sure I'll like catch up. This is not a goal that I'll be sad if I miss. It was more just to try and make sure I don't overshoot, because I don't think it was beneficial to me. I also had soft goals of like mood reads and rereads, which I had like 12 for each. Mood reading was something I really wanted to explore this year, and I think I'm doing a pretty okay job. I think I put 12 books for each, so like 1 a month sort of thing, and I'm like at 6 or 7 books for each of these. I think I'm currently at 6, maybe 7 mood reads, depending on if I include what I've been reading in July, which is great. And then rereads, I'm at 7 with way more to come because I'm rereading, Karen Lord and M.A. Carrick's series, so we're doing great on all of those, and a lot of the rereads have been successful for me. Just this month, you've probably seen my Friday reads. I'm rereading some of my favorites, and it's really helping my reading momentum and making me want to read, which, it's great, right? And I love re-exploring stories and how you kind of maybe get different things from it, or the same thing, and I think re-consuming media is really fun. I do it a lot in every form of my life. Now, I did look through this part of the year so far and was like, what were books that I wish I had DNF'd, that I could have DNF'd, that there was no reason why I really had to. Sometimes there are reasons, but one of them was The Bone Shard War. That one I finished out of pure stubbornness of wanting a video that, like, didn't even perform that well, so, like, what am I really doing? I just like the completionist of, like, I finished a series, I can tell people if they do or don't like the series, but series reviews, standalone reviews, they do okay, but they're not great, and I always have to then put a second video that week to make sure the analytics kind of keep up, and so it's more work on me. And then I finished a book I didn't even really like, but I did pick it up thinking I would like it, but I really should have somewhere along the way when I was really struggling to pick up the audiobook, just been like, you don't care about how this ends anymore. But I'm really bad at that when I'm that close to the finish line. I truly am. Amina Al-Sarafi, I gave that book 4 stars. I mean, maybe it should be more of a 3.5 because it doesn't stick with me, but I do think it just really isn't my type of fantasy, and I need to stop trying to make certain things like my thing. So I don't know. I did read that for a spoiler vlog for my patrons, so like that one's a bit more of an obligation. But at the same time, it's just like, man, you could have read something else that was more fun for me. Like my type of entertainment was not that book. And then we have Frugal Wizard's Guide, Handbook, whatever it is, by Sanderson. Yeah, I don't know why I finished that. It was pretty much from like 30% in. I was like, this is just fine. And it never got above just fine. And intentions at the start of the year was to not just read just fine things. So I probably should have DNF'd that, but like, I don't know. I mean, I've DNF'd other Sandersons, or I've had other Sanderson books I've not liked to that level. But yeah, it was just very fine for me. And like, it's not even that finishing the book helped me understand who to recommend that book to. I knew instantly reading that book, my mom's going to love this. And I was right. I know my coworker's going to love it. I know who's going to love this book, and I know why I don't love that book, and I didn't need to finish that book to find out. And then I have Far From Light, which this was also a buddy read for patron, and this was just, I was really upset because I really wanted to like it, and it just didn't work at all for me, and it was really boring, and that's, it was just kind of a bummer, but, that was also kind of sort of an obligation, but, like, at least this list isn't too long, because I have been DNFing more this year. I don't have like an exact number. I think it's like 4 or 5, but I've been getting better at stopping books when I don't want to. I still want to work on this, and I have some ideas on how to improve this goal. So like I was talking about, why do I read? And basically checking it at 25% and 50% and being like, is it meeting these reasons why I read? And I had like 3 things written down for like possibilities for why I would push on in a book. One of them is like, I'm reading a book for entertainment. Am I being entertained? That's a nebulous idea, but I know what entertains me, and if at the 25 or 50% mark I'm not being entertained, then it needs to meet one of these other criteria. One can be, it's unique, it's something new, it's pushing me out of my comfort zone, it's a part of the speculative space that doesn't usually get a light shined on it, so I want to put extra effort in to give that art a bigger shot. Something like that. Something where it's not necessarily meant to entertain me, and I'll give it more of an effort in that case. Now, if it's not meeting those criteria, then it needs to be attributing to memories, community. So like if I'm doing something for a video project where I'm like, I might not like this book, but I want to be a part of the conversation. All right, that's fine. If I'm doing a buddy read and I'm really enjoying the buddy read, even if I'm not enjoying the book, also fine. If it's also just like giving me memories, that's okay too. I just hate the middle ground of like, I don't remember reading that book. I don't have strong thoughts about that book. I just spent 10 hours consuming art that left no positive or negative impact on me, and it wasn't part of the community. And, so I think those are the 3 things that when I'm at like the 25 and 50% mark of a book and I'm feeling lukewarm, I need to check in on. I think probably if I'm really liking a book, I don't need to do that, right? I'm just like vibing, going along. And so another kind of question I'm going to ask myself though, because I did recently finish a 3-star book that did not meet really any of this criteria. Loosely could have met the I wanted to have an opinion for the community. That's The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. And I intentionally finished it because I didn't have another audiobook option. And so that's the question of, is there something else I could be using when I needed personally, I need it. I was doing a lot of work around the house. I like having something to listen to. People haven't been posting YouTube videos at the time that I've been watching, and I didn't have any of my podcasts because it's summer, it's a low time, and I didn't have like an album I wanted to listen to. And so I truly just only had this perfectly fine audiobook, and all the other audiobooks I wanted to listen to are still on hold. And I wanted to work on a baby blanket. So I'm like, I don't have anything else I'd rather be doing, so it's fine that I'm doing this. But I need to make sure that I'm more aggressive about that question, because I have sometimes tricked myself and been like, yeah, there is nothing else. But in reality, maybe there is. And so that's a thing that I'm going to be trying to do to try and make sure I am DNFing more intentionally, because I can just be a completionist. I can just be someone who keeps going. And since I'm trying to avoid the fine, like I'm really good at DNFing when I know it doesn't work for me. It's when it's just fine that I have like some strong issues. I'm doing really well with what I want to do with lives and my channel goals. I finally started the interview series I've been wanting to work with. I've been doing a read along. So I feel good about the channel. I feel good about the amount of content I'm creating. I did temporarily try to go back to 3 videos a week, and I was both overwhelmed because it's just a lot of work and I wasn't in like the headspace for it. And then also there are just diminishing returns. I don't know why. It's probably because I knew certain videos weren't going to perform as well. So I'm like, I need to have 3 videos a week because I want to make these videos, but I know they won't get as many clicks. And so I need to like counteract that. And so not only do you put in more work, you get less of that weird serotonin that comes with like seeing things being successful. Because for better or worse, you're like told by YouTube, and you can hide it, but like I don't have a lot of negative feelings when I see a video's not performing as well, especially if I predict it won't perform as well. But it's just kind of like, man, my average views are this, and this one's just like barely squeaking by, and I feel so bad because this is a good video. I feel good about this video. And that's just the internet, and it's not a big deal. But I do think 2 videos a week is truly my like new sweet spot and what I'm going to keep working towards. And I'm sure there'll be times a year where I adjust it because sometimes there's just more content to make than others, but I'm feeling good about that. The only thing I need to try and figure out how to work on is I love the number of buddy reads and read-alongs and book clubs that I am in. I don't think I need to change that, but I do need to try and figure out how to space it out because I tend to front load my reading months, and I think that's exhausting for me. And then I'm trying to get all my obligations done so that I can have like the freedom to choose what I want. And it's like, I need to have a better balance there. I need to figure that out. But I always have my in-person book club at the start of the month. And then lately I've been reading Rain Wild, and we always start at the start of the month. And I don't know. And then I feel like there's a part of my brain that's like, okay, even though you don't have like a time when you need to finish this, you need to get it done because it's like weighing on you. So I need to still unpack that. But for the most part, I'm feeling pretty good about my like reading intentions and goals. The thing I need to do is I've been atrociously bad at tracking my reading this year. I am barely entering things on Storygraph as I finish them. It's pretty bad. I sometimes go from one side of the spectrum of like, I'm tracking things to the minute, to like, oh, it's been 4 days since I put in the books that I've read and I've finished a bunch by then and I'm going to lose my memory if I don't do that. And so in Storygraph's just like my own personal tracker. In addition to my spreadsheet, which I haven't touched in 3 months, so we're way behind on that spreadsheet. Then 30 books I need to enter there, and 30 books I need to enter on Goodreads. So, doing poorly. I would like to catch up a little bit on that and somehow find a way to stay on top of it. It's like always a nebulous goal for me, but like this year, I've been even worse than previous years. Like it brings me no joy, and so I haven't been doing it. But then if I want to like analyze data, I need data to analyze. It's a struggle. So I would like to actually like maybe 1 day a week spend like 10 to 20 minutes updating some of these things, and then slowly but surely it will catch up. It will be better than doing nothing. So I think that's my like measurable goal for that, is like once a week for half an hour, start updating one of these things. And so now into like the actual like, what do I want to read? What reading goals that I have, like with specific books on the TBR, are sticking around, because not everything's at 100%. I do a series to start, I do like a general TBR challenge, and I do the Reddit bingo, and those are the things we're gonna focus on. The first thing I'll point you to is I did a physical TBR check-in, and I prioritized my TBR into like 3 stacks. I don't have plans for this right now, but I'm still interested, not getting rid of it. I kind of would like to read these, but I don't have plans. And then I had like 20 books with some plans, and a lot of those books do kind of fit with a lot of other categories that I'm going to talk about. But if you want to know like 20 books that I'm still like would like to get to by the end of the year, which seems attainable. I read about 60 books per half of the year, so having a third of them be for my physical TBR doesn't feel bad. Feels like an attainable goal / intention, right? But then I do have the Reddit bingo that I made some progress on. I do think I'm not as gung-ho on like finishing everything, because I crave flexibility right now. And some of those prompts just really aren't putting books on my TBR that make me excited. But if I stumble onto things that fit prompts, I'll be okay too. Like this is where we're currently at with the Reddit bingo board. And when I was looking through the things that I put in that first video that I still want to keep around, I only have like 3 that I like really, I'm like, yeah, I still want to read these, either because they're on my physical TBR or they excite me. And one is Chilling Effect #2. That would be like a Person of Color's sci-fi book. And then Fledgling, which is bottom of the TBR by Octavia Butler. I've been wanting to read that for a while. And then Rose / House by Arcady Martin, because I love Arcady Martin. And that works for, like, I think novella not published by, like, Tor.com. So those are the 3 from that I'm still, like, actively going to look for. It's not saying I won't read other things that I put in that video, but these are, like, me going, yeah, these are still worth prioritizing for me. And there are other ones in that video that you'll probably have seen on my physical TBR. I'm just trying not to be repetitive here. And then we have my series to start video. And so I had this idea because Abby Salter had a video where I guess she just does series to start every 6 months, which feels more attainable and a smarter idea. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still going back to that overly ambitious series to start video, seeing what I have accomplished and seeing what I still want to accomplish. And so things that I have started in that video, Dragon Keeper I did start. One was just like a nebulous T. Kingfisher spot, which I've definitely been reading T. Kingfisher, even if I haven't been reading any of the series, so I don't feel like I need to do anything there. Same with Louise Erdrich. I did put Love Medicine, but I read The Sentence, and I wouldn't mind reading another Louise Erdrich this year, but it's not like high priority. We DNF'd Empire of Silence, so RIP. I did start, and I've caught up currently, as of right now, with The Red Rising, and I had Witchmark by C.L. Polk, which I still want to read one day, but I don't know if it's a high priority right now. And maybe come fall season, if I'm feeling like witchy, which I don't even know how witchy it is, it's just called the Witchmark series, so maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But right now, I'm drawn to other speculative works than that one for series. So it's just like not as high of a priority. Things that I haven't started on that list that I still want to get to. War Child. Broken record at this point. I really want to. I think there are new covers now, so if I like it, I can collect some pretty covers. I don't know. I just really want to try this out. I even read a new short story by this author recently that reminded me how much I like this author's style. So I really need to just like do it. Maybe I need to buy myself a copy. Libraries don't always have copies. We'll see. Empire of Sand, again, broken record. It's been on my Kindle on and off all year, and I just haven't sat down to read it yet. Kushiel's Start, which also will work for the Reddit bingo board, and I have the mass market paperback on my physical TBR. And then Theft of Swords, which I do think of these 4, this is the one most likely to fall off and be like a 2024 project. But we'll see. One can have ambitions and dreams and goals. So that's kind of my nebulous check-in. I'm feeling really good right now, probably because I've been having such a good reading month in July. And I do think it's just a matter of reminding myself what makes me excited about reading. I've been purposefully pivoting from things that make me less excited to things that make me more excited. And I don't know, it's just, and I think maybe currently I have a good sense of where my mood's at. And it probably doesn't hurt that I've been rereading some absolute faves right now, that even when I'm reading other things that aren't faves, I'm like, that's okay, because this book's stellar. Let me know if you do check-ins like this or resets. What are some goals that you are keeping or that you've thrown out? I do think goals only work if you adjust to have them serve you where you're at. And so that's why I kind of like to do this. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, oh, I don't know, leave like a summertime emoji because it's summer where I'm at and it's very hot. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.